And then after some days of that, we'll change to Vipassana. Along the way, we'll, of course, as you know, we'll be connecting here every morning after you've shared the sitting in the morning. So at 7:30, we'll be meeting here together.
8:30.
Ah, thank you. My time calculation is off. I have my own time here in Myanmar.
Easy.
So in addition to our regular meetings every morning, each of you will have 2 opportunities to have a group interview. So we'll meet as a group because it's just really too hard to do individual interviews for this kind of retreat. But it's also quite wonderful to hear what is happening for other people. You really get a sense of how impersonal the process is. And we all go through a similar process. It looks different, everybody's has their own individual road, but the practice is so familiar and so similar for everybody. And then there are recorded Dhamma talks for you to listen to every day. I'd give them live, but because of the time difference, it's just not practical to give an evening Dhamma talk for you. So normally we offer in a regular retreat, here in Burma, we offer the Dhamma talks in the afternoon, but normally in the West, they're in the evening. Feel free to fit them in wherever it's best for you during the day. And then it's up to all of us to do the practice. This time of coronavirus is so intense and so much a lesson in the Dhamma, in the way things actually are. This is another kind of opportunity that I know doesn't feel like an opportunity, but really life is showing us, the world is showing us its true nature. We don't necessarily like it. There it is. So really taking the whole thing as a gift, and embracing both the challenges and the benefits of it. That's basically all I wanted to say about the container. Does anybody have any questions? I know many of you have done this before, so it's actually at this point quite a familiar experience, but not everybody may. And I would also say, Federica and Donatella, if there's anything you want to add that I might have forgotten, please feel free. One thing I realized I did forget to say, the interviews, for those of you who need a translation, Donatella will be translating. Not everybody does, so we're separating the groups depending on whether you need translation or not. No questions. Excellent. So I'd like to now really just begin. Before we sit, though, I'd like to begin the retreat in the traditional Burmese way, and I might be clashing a little bit with what's happening in the Dhamma hall here with the community. This is the time we normally chant, so they may be chanting over there while I chant. I'm going to chant the Pali refuges and precepts for you before we sit. So this is the traditional opening of a retreat where we connect with our lineage and we undertake the practice of ethical conduct, which is a huge support for the practice. So I will be chanting actually the 8 retreat precepts, which include precepts not to eat in the evening. If you would like to chant these, or take them yourself, feel free to experiment with this, but also feel free to just take on the 5 traditional precepts. And these are very quickly undertaking the practice of refraining from harming living beings, any sexual activity that is harmful to yourself or anyone else. And what I will be chanting the 8 precept version, which is, and then the 4th precept is refraining from lying. The 5th precept is refraining from taking any substance that clouds the mind. So that basically means alcohol or recreational drugs. And if you choose to experiment with a few more precepts, the 6th precept is refraining from eating after the new meal. So basically, that's not taking solid food between after the noon meal and dawn the next day. And then there's a very long precept that means basically no entertainment or beautification, which includes listening to music, dancing, singing, other than chanting, of course. And then finally, the last precept is not sleeping on a higher luxurious bed or sitting in a higher luxurious chair. And these precepts are a beautification of the heart. And they really support a quiet mind. They're an incredible foundation of the practice. So I'll chant them. If you know them, you can join in out loud. Make sure your microphone is off, otherwise it gets a little chaotic. And if you don't know them, just kind of follow along and receive the vibe of this. And of course, we begin with taking refuge in the Buddha, the Dharma, the Sangha, and paying homage. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Buddhang saranang gacchami. Dhammang saranang gacchami. Sanghang saranang gacchami. Dutiyampi buddhang saranang gacchami. Dutiyampi dhammang saranang gacchami. Dutiyampi sanghang saranang gacchami. Tatiyampi buddhang saranang gacchami. Tatiyampi dhammang saranang gacchami. Tatiyampi sanghang saranang gacchami. Anatipata Veramani Sikapadang Samadhihami. Adina Dana Veramani Sikapadang Samadhihami. Abrahmacharya Veramani Sikapadang Samadhihami. Musawada Veramani Sikapadang Samadhihami. Sura Miraya Majapamadatharna Veramani Sikapadang Samadhihami. Ikala Bojana Veramani Sikapadang Samadhiyami. Nacha Ita Wadita Visukadasana, Malaganda, Vilepana, Dharana, Mandana, Vipusanatana, Viramani, Sikapadang, Samadhiyami, Uchasayana, Mahasayana, Viramani, Sikapadang, Samadhiyami. Metta Sahagatena Cetasa Sabhavantam Lokam Haritva Viharami Idam me silam Magapalanyana sa Pachayo Hotu Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu. My preceptor and beloved teacher U Pandita always said at this point, now you are adorned with the garland of Sila, the garland of ethical conduct. This is not a burden or something you should do with, kind of heaviness. This is an adorning the mind. So it's incredibly beautiful and joyful. And it's a practice in itself. So if you accidentally break a precept, for example, you accidentally swat a mosquito, don't be hard on yourself. You undertake the practice to refrain from whatever it is, means we make mistakes. Simply begin again, just like with the practice. And rejoice in the very fact that you are a good person and actually moved to do this. And you're a good person and you want to practice meditation. This is amazing. Open the news on your phone if you want a reality check on how precious this is. And how many other ways there are to live. Thank you in advance for coming, for sharing, for whatever practice you do this week. It's really precious. So let's begin, at least the practice part. So find a comfortable posture, and we'll be doing the metta practice as a support for the vipassana. So it will be a little different than you're used to if you are used to practicing metta for the purpose of metta self. We want obviously to cultivate loving kindness, but the main emphasis as a support for vipassana is a particular aspect of concentration that is lightness and joy and ease. So we do the practice in the same way as you're used to, but the categories you use are totally up to you. Really choosing the beings or persons, it could be human beings or non-human beings, who you most easily connect with in a metta way. So it doesn't have to be a person, it could be your dogs, or a child, or a grandparent, or somebody who really, really easily connect with metta. And really the only difference between the 3 days of metta practice that we'll be doing is you'll be finding a different person or a different being. to deepen the concentration, to deepen the joy. So, you'll start with somebody easy and go to another person who's easy or another being, and then go to a third person who's easy. Also understanding for some people, the easiest category is all beings. So if that's you, you could do all beings for 3 days. That's totally fine. So with all that in mind, I want to begin the practice, and I'm going to turn off, I've got bad light in my room, so I've got my phone's flashlight in my eyes. I'm going to turn this off. So finding a posture that's really, really comfortable for you, either seated on the floor or in a chair. And unlike Vipassana practice, while we do metta practice, feel free to move if you feel any discomfort. Letting the metta be in the foreground. Just don't pay any attention to what the body is doing. So finding that comfortable posture, closing your eyes. Taking a few moments to connect with whatever sensations in the body are most obvious, and really connect in a metta way with interest, with friendliness, and with curiosity. Relaxing the mind, relaxing the body, and adjusting whatever you need to adjust at the beginning that might be uncomfortable. Bringing the attention to the heart center, the chest area. Not demanding it to feel any particular way, but just getting familiar with this part of the body. Inhabiting the heart. And if you have trouble feeling it, you can put your hand on your chest. And as you do this, bringing to heart and mind this easy being, person, or non-human being, connecting with them with either an image or a felt sense, and then repeating a short, simple phrase in your native language, no matter what it is, to convey well-wishing for this being. Letting the phrase be very, very, very simple. I say in English, may I be well, happy, and peaceful, or may you be well, happy, and peaceful, depending if I'm radiating to myself or another. So the practice is simply to do this over and over and over again, each time guiding the heart to care, to kindness, to well-wishing. It's this repeated inclination that's important, not what you experience. And the practice is simply to begin again as many times as you need to if the mind wanders or you find yourself doing something else. Connect with the heart, connect with this other being, repeat the phrase. You don't have to do them all at the same time, one after another. Connect with the heart, connect with this being, repeat the phrase. Connect with the heart, connect with the being, repeat the phrase over and over and over again. Moment to moment, planting seeds of kindness. So do this in the silence, in your own time, in your own way, for this being that you've chosen and the phrase that you've chosen. Over and over, guiding the heart to kindness. Thank you, everybody. So the continuity of your practice through the day is the most important aspect to cultivate in these days of metta. You should feel free to do some walking meditation if you like, which in formal practice is simply to walk back and forth, not paying attention to the feet in a vipassana way, but just to keep repeating the phrase. Keeping as the object of your metta the same easy being. So for the next day, stay with the same being in your formal sitting or walking meditation. And then the third aspect of the practice is everything else. So in your general activities, really taking care to continue to cultivate metta. And in general activities, it's often easiest to cultivate metta for all beings in a very general way, particularly any beings you might be interacting with. Using the same phrase as you use in your formal practice. Because you will be doing things, this will be more difficult, but that's okay. Just keep going as best as you can. Don't worry, I can tell you it will become a habit and it will start happening by itself in the background. And that's just great when that happens. And you may find there are some activities where it's very easy. So for example, when you go for a walk, if you just go for a walk to walk your dog or just to walk, the feet will be placed on the ground. And what happens for me, because I walk a lot and do a lot of meditation and walking, is well, happy, peaceful, well, happy, peaceful. As the feet hit the ground, a word comes out, one of those three. And it becomes a rhythm. It just goes in the background. So feel free to simplify the phrase if you need to. Or in general activities, if you have that connection with the metta wish itself, just you feel free to drop the phrase. It's there as a support, not as something you have to do. It's the means rather than the end.
Mm.
So have fun with this, experiment with it. Find small ways to bring it into the foreground. And as much as you can, just keep bringing the mind back to this well-wishing, to the heart. Does anybody have any questions about the practice itself? Or about the retreat, actually?
Sorry, Viranani, I just wanted to ask, just had a question about the room. The room remains open, so if people want to meditate together, they just enter the room and it remains open. Will Federica close the room in the evening or what? Yes.
That's wonderful. That's just, really take advantage of that.
Can I
Wonderful,
ask
please.
something? Well, I just wanted to check if I got it right. In this first part, in this phase, we bring metta towards the benefactor, not towards ourselves.
Wherever it's easiest. Start in the traditional metta sequence, start wherever you find it most, where the metta is most alive and where concentration comes most easily. So it could be yourself, it could be the benefactor, it could be all beings, it could be a dear friend, whichever is easiest for you.
Okay.
So really disregard the sequence. It's very much free form metta meditation.
Check.
What you
Quindi,
might do, if you're familiar with the practice enough to know which category is easiest for you, choose one person in that category. And then the next day, when we move to another being, choose a second one and then a third one.
And in case it's all beings, then we can choose the same 3 days.
Absolutely. Yeah. Fancy. Anyone else? Okay. So we meet tomorrow at no,
8:30.
adjusted the time. 8:30 your time. Please continue the practice as best as you can. Really connecting with the joy of this. So right now you'll probably be going into your kitchens to prepare or eat lunch. And really, when you prepare lunch, this is a metta action by itself. So really bring that into the foreground. Everybody but Giovanni, who will be doing something quite different. But whatever you end up doing, do it with metta. Bring the metta into the foreground. It's a natural state of mind. And really, the continuity is what will benefit the Vipassana the most. So really polishing that. So thank you again for your practice, and I'll see you tomorrow.